in this AJ Scott trial. We've got the prosecution is up next, and we're going to hear from them how they're going to defend their client here. Seems to be an uphill battle. We've all seen the video so far. If you haven't seen the video, make sure you check it out because we reviewed it in the overview of this case. It's not looking great for AJ Scott. We'll have to see what happens here. Here we go. Opening statements for the defense.
Thank you.
Sound should be better.
I may have said to you, no idea, and I mean it. We could not have jury trial without juries. And the trial by jury is, we kind of take for granted now in this country. But in the 1700s, the idea that we should bring people in from their everyday lives and have them sit in court and decide what the law is and how the process is going to sets of facts was remarkable. It was something revolutionary in the Revolutionary War. It just come out of it because that's not the way it was done in other parts of the world before then. And while our system is not perfect, it is the best one going today. The best one conceived by man, I believe Thomas Jefferson wrote, to hold the government to the principles of its Constitution. And I'm shorthanding that, paraphrasing, but I believe that. And I believe that juries...
Let me know how the sound is, gang.
That's all the time. And that's the reason why we're here today. It's for you, as a jury, collectively and individually, to do what is called the Latin version of it. It's veredictum, which is what we use for verdict, which essentially means veredictum, the truth. Dictum means to speak, is to speak the truth, to say the truth.
He was elected
that's the whole truth.
As the mayor, yes.
It's not part of it, that's not a slant, it's not a side, it's the whole truth. And today, I just want to let you know that AJ Scott is my client. He's here. Members of my office, Justice Lynn, Daniel Rice, Rory Manley, and Taylor Fields are here helping me this week. And you'll see them coming and going throughout the week. I just want to let you know who they were. Some of you, I mentioned during voir dire, or you mentioned me, or you could serve on juries, others of you have not. And oftentimes, it is asked, what is a jury role? What do they do? And everybody, I think, for the most part, is either read or watched.
I can turn it up some more. Hold on.
Everybody knows the version, right? And that's ultimately the byproduct, is the end result of what you do. But it's not what a jury does. And as I was preparing for this case, some things struck me. And you might wonder why I have a loaf of bread on my table. And I have always been a visual learner. From when I was a young child to this day, visual learner. And you might wonder, what does a loaf of bread have to do with this case? And it made me think about 30 years ago, 28 years ago or so, I had a job for a time, a flowery factory in Newark. It's located on Industrial Boulevard between Highway 101 and 78. If you've driven by there, you probably smell it. It smells really good unless you work there, not so much. But I remember I had a job, and my job was I ran a bagger. And the bagging machine was kind of toward the end of the production where I had to control the nozzles, the air coming out, had to make sure the bread didn't get back up. And the scoop had a sensor and scoop out, the bread fall up with the bag. And there was a tying machine, and it went from me to the shipping people. Right? They put it on strays on rolling cars into the truck, and trucks to the stores. Well, I remember the first day I was there, I had very little training, but I did have a couple of days.
He's got his whole lunch on the table.
I was running the old world, I think still works there, actually. And I still see him from time to time around town. And Bill was there, and he was showing me how to run the machine and what to look for and troubleshoot if something happens.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're sitting there the first day, and then the second day, there was a guy. Didn't know who he was, he never introduced himself. He was a man, maybe a woman on the chef, was a man on my chef. He would come and literally just take a loaf of bread. Sometimes he'd take a loaf of bread before it went through the slicer, sometimes after, and he had like a tray, right? Like similar to what you see where a waiter had, right? And he'd just walk away with it. And I was curious as to who this guy was. But then I also found out that the particular job that I had, you were paid hourly, but you're also paid production. So
where's he going with
the more
this?
bread I got in the bag, the more ties I got on, the more I got out, the more I got paid. It was every 2 weeks you got a little bonus, right? If you met certain criteria and people above. So I started wondering, who is this guy? Why is he taking bread off the line that I could get in the bag and pay? So I asked Bill one day, he said, oh, that's cute. So I literally thought the man's name was Quillian or Q or something. I had no idea. But come to find out, he was actually a quality controller. And also, as I worked there a little bit longer that year, I figured out there was a small office in the back, probably a third of the size and a quarter of the size of this office. They had a laboratory. And this man would come and take the bread, and he'd weigh it. He would taste it. He would break it down chemically to see what was in it. If in fact what they put on the label was what was in it, how much salt, how much sugar. He would actually measure the slices. They had a little bitty measure. He would put it on a digital scale. And The part I made about that is there are a lot of things that went into this. It just started. And you're going to hear about a lot of them. And there's a lot that goes into making a loaf of bread. It starts with the guys that unload the trucks, the people that put it in stores, the people that measure the ingredients, the people that mix the ingredients, that put it together. Some of them hand twisted still to this day. And then it goes to the oven, it goes to the containers, it goes to the oven, the people control the ovens and how hot they are and how long they're in there. And then there's cooling, and then there's the slicing machine, people control that.
What's your point, brother?
Before it gets in the back, right? And there's a lot of parts of this case. So what I consider you as a jury is you're the quality control officer, person of the criminal justice system. What you're supposed to do as a jury is protect the quality of what's been given to you, and is it justice? And I use that analogy simply because it helps me explain to a jury kind of what's expected to do. And so if you think about it, your job is to check the state's work, to check the people that were mixing it, the people that were baking it, the people that put it in the form. Did they actually give you what they said they give you? What's required by law? Does it match the ingredients? Does it match the specifications of this jury? They have to give you that. So if you look at the evidence going forward in that way, I think it may help you. Now, you hear us discuss throughout this trial, or I would say, and myself, the idea of reasonable doubt. And that is something that we use.
There is no doubt in this case.
Most other people don't use. Much like you don't hear things like torque and I'm sure mechanic, right? That's something you hear. It is sort of a byproduct of our profession. But what reasonable doubt is pretty simple. Reasonable doubt is a fair mind open member of the jury seeking the truth. And if it's a doubt of which you give a reason, that is reasonable doubt. Now, I will tell you, throughout this entire trial, there will be reasonable doubt. From the beginning to the end. Now, there are some things that we agree on. And some of the descriptions and events we're going to agree on. We're not going to disagree on everything. But what I think the evidence is going to show you is around 11:30 or so on Saturday night, almost the end of it, Dylan Wall was operating a Nissan Sentra, a 1.8 liter 2005 Nissan Sentra. And in that car, he had 3 other teenagers. I think it's going to be clear, and I think the state has already advised you, and I would agree with them, they had been at a party. Whatever you want to call it, a gathering, a group of young people. And TJ Sylvie was one of them saying they're at his house and his family owns quite a bit of property in that area. And she's right. You're going to hear a 911 call from an independent person who knew nothing about what was going on. You'll hear it, and you'll listen to it. And it'll talk about the direction that that vehicle was traveling and how it was traveling. I'm going to pay close attention to that. And they had left the party, and then they had come back. The part where they were coming back to the party.
Which isn't illegal.
What I think the evidence is going to show you is Dylan Wall made a left-hand turn without yielding. If you're going to watch videos, and you're going to hear testimony, you're going to see that there is absolutely no yielding, that there was no turn signal whatsoever. You're going to see.
Bruh, what?
You're also going to hear about the weather that night. It was wet. It was raining. It was so rainy that if you want to hear testimony, the airlift ambulance or helicopter couldn't get brought in because of the roads. It just wasn't conducive for them to fly or land. So you're going to hear those things. You're going to hear that Dylan Wall's vehicle was traveling somewhere between 22 and 23 miles an hour as he made a left-hand turn without yielding. You will hear that. And that will come up to you. There was, in fact, alcohol present, both in the car, in the road, and throughout the crash scene. And there's 2 different types of alcohol that are present. We do not dispute that Mr. Wall and Mr. Finken were taken by ambulance to the hospital. We don't dispute that. I will let you notice, and I will put it down to show you that Mr. Finken was combative on the scene, and combative inside the ambulance.
So?
Evidence also, we believe, is that Mr. Wall will have actually vomited inside the back of the ambulance. I think you heard testimony on that. And I want you to pay close attention to that testimony, and close attention to those details. We don't dispute that injuries and death resulted from this accident. We don't dispute that. And the loss of those 2 young girls is something that can never be filled by anything I say or could say, and it may be the worst thing that a parent has to live through. It's a loss of a child. I can't imagine anything worse as a parent. I don't know anything worse I could live through than that. And for those parents and those grandparents,
boy, this is not the route to take.
Very much so. I want that to be clear that no matter what happens here this week, next week, the result, there is no hope in their life that can be filled. I'm sorry for that. That's really not. But we do dispute who's at fault. We do dispute the proximate cause. We do dispute how this accident occurred. And what I ask every jury to do, I'll ask you guys to determine whether it's a 1-day trial or a week trial, whether it's 4 witnesses or 4
I always hate interrupting opening statements, but is it going over 90 miles an hour reckless in itself already? Where are my attorneys at? We're here in Georgia. We have a ton of attorneys that watch the channel. I need y'all to let me know. Him going 90 in a 45. Now, isn't that a crime in of itself? A crime punishable by jail? Not yielding, making a left turn without a turn signal. How do you yield to someone who's going 90 miles an hour? And we watched the video. They were already turning when this guy was coming up over the hill at 90 miles an hour. Hey, this is bad.
Pay close attention.
Reckless, super speeder, all that.
And things that you're not told. Things that you're shown, things that you think you should be shown, not not. These are all the things within your province to consider. And I want to leave you one thing here. As I was preparing this case, I looked up the term for accident. Because there are different words, motor vehicle collision, motor vehicle accident. But essentially an accident is an unfortunate incident that happens unexpectedly and unintentionally. A secondary definition is an event that happens by chance or without apparent or deliberate cause.
How long was he going 90 miles an hour for?
This is accident. It's all it's ever been. And we believe that when this is all said and done, and you have a chance to go back and deliberate, and I know that's going to be a difficult task to understand. It always is. And again, I say thank you for that, for what you're going to do, what you have done, and what's going to be presented to you. Is when you go back, you're going to see reasonable doubt throughout the case. There's going to be reasonable doubt. And I think when we're done, whether it's one day next week, that you will find my client something that the state does not carry the burden. And I'll close with this: the state always carries the burden. The state must answer all your questions, must dot all your I's, cross all of the T's if you have a question. My client has a duty to produce nothing, present nothing. We will, but he has no duty to do so. None whatsoever, and that should not affect you. But you will hear from us. You will hear evidence from us. Evidence is in contradiction with what the state's going to present. And it'll be your job to hash that out. And I think when you're done, you're going to find the reasonable doubt is clear throughout this case, from the beginning to the end. And if that's the case, if it's anywhere in, it's not guilty. And that's what we're going to actually find not guilty in each count. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for attending this, and look forward to presenting the case.
All right, guys. How do y'all feel about that opening statement? Not great. Saying, hey, you know, we're not going to dispute that somebody died because of this, but it was an accident. It was the victim's fault. Listen, they shouldn't have turned. They didn't have on the turn signal. The officer didn't know what they were going to do. They didn't yield. Yes, he was going 90 miles an hour. We can hold him accountable for that. But what we can't hold him accountable for is somebody turning in front of him while he was exceeding the speed limit. Do you guys think that's a fair argument? Do you think it's a reasonable argument? I don't know about this one. We'll have to see what the law says. And I'm sure that's going to be presented not only by the prosecution, but defended by AJ Scott's attorneys as well. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments and in the chat.